Good morning, all my fellow indulgent, enduring, unruffled Confederates. Yes, I know you know what it means, but for those who took the small bus to school, I don't mean Confederate as in a person who fought in the Civil War. Now, I'm a very, very old man, but still, the last living Confederate soldier died 10 years before I was born. A Confederate means an associate, somebody that you like, somebody that you have some commonality with. Well, that's not the textbook definition of a Confederate, but it's close enough. Now, I think I owe you a bit of an explanation. This is my first video in a little while because, well, it's December. Among other things, I'm the one in the family that makes out all the Christmas cards. Have you ever done that? Just filling out the addresses on the envelopes, signing you and your wife's name on the inside, and leaving a little bit of a personal remark inside for each one takes quite a lot of time. Then there's the shopping involved with this month. And finally, I'm a bit of a Luddite. I was the last person I know of, except for my brother, of course, who had an old flip-up phone. When I went to renew my contract online for another year, it told me that soon my phone would be unsupported. It didn't say why, but I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that it's an old 3G phone. Now, I could have gotten a 4G flip-up phone, but you see, I've been talking it over with my wife for a few years now about getting a smartphone because here in Hawaii, QR codes are everywhere. Even to get into my local hospital, they want you to scan the QR code and answer a few questions. Now, you don't have to, of course, but that means once you get inside, you have to do all that, which takes longer in person. So, when I was told that my flip phone would soon be unsupported, I bit the bullet and got a smartphone. And wow, since I never had one before, there was a bit of a learning curve. Not as much as you might suspect because I am computer literate. And what is a smartphone anyway, except a small version of a laptop, more or less. Not quite as good, but there it is. So the learning curve wasn't insurmountable, but there was still a learning curve involved. Let's get on with the stories today. Did you notice I said stories? I'm going to go with three of them. Starting off with this one from ABC News. 54 migrants dead, 105 injured after vehicle overturns in Chiapas, Mexico, authorities. You notice in the headline, it doesn't say where these immigrants were coming from or where they were headed to. It just turned over in Mexico. I took a look. You see, Chiapas is close to the Guatemala border, so I'm guessing that this vehicle was stuffed full of Guatemalans, people from Honduras and El Salvador, too. And take a look at that picture. That is the vehicle they mentioned that had 110 immigrants? Yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. It's an 18-wheeler. And I'm betting it was on a convoy to the northern border. Mexico's northern border, that is. Either close to the border or maybe they even wanted to cross the border in this vehicle to get to the U.S. I'm pretty sure that Mexico wasn't their final destination. It never says in this article what their final destination was for these immigrants. These people were trying to find economic stability. They were fleeing their shithole countries, very probably, like I said, mostly from Guatemala, trying to get to the U.S. They didn't want to go to Mexico. Mexico, as I've shown before in these things, now, Mexico would let these people immigrate to Mexico, but the freebie package in Mexico just isn't as good as the freebie package in the U.S., isn't it? There is a huge problem on our southern border. It's being ignored by the fake news media. This is as close as they'll get to covering it. Mexico's southern border, not the U.S.'s. Like I said, Chiapas is on Mexico's southern border, and they were headed north towards the U.S. These illegal immigrants, it's funny how they always leave out that one little word, isn't it? We're headed for the U.S. They were hoping to spend a very Merry Christmas in the U.S., courtesy of Uncle Sam. I don't know what caused this horrible accident. It doesn't say. Was it poor roads? Was it poor maintenance of the vehicle? Was it a driver that didn't know what he was doing? Was it maybe a combination of all three? It's very possible, but we'll never know. And like I said, there is still a huge problem all along our southern border, but the legacy, the fake news media, just doesn't cover it. This is as close as we get. Now let's go to the second story of the day. This one. Take a look at this story from CBS News. U.S. prices jumped 6.8% in November, the steepest rise in 40 years. Well, it says since 1982, but let's close enough to call it 40 years, right? This story is one of those things that is in and out very quickly, thanks, of course, to the fake news media, the propaganda outlets. CNN actually let it slip that Uncle Joe is encouraging the fake news media, the propaganda outlets, to only print stories he wants to let out. And I guarantee you, this astronomical rate in inflation is not a story that Uncle Joe wants let out. Let's go to our third story of the day. This one from Newsweek. Jussie Smollett verdict, a disaster for Kim Foxx prosecutor who let him off the hook. Newsweek is providing cover for all the rest of the legacy media who jumped on this story, as ridiculous as it was when it first broke. When he first told the story, in the middle of winter, he was walking down this cold, dark street in the dead of morning and was attacked by two white individuals. That's right, in his initial police statement, he said the individuals were white, and it was later learned there were two black people from Africa that he knew very well indeed. And what did he do? He claimed a race attack. He claimed these white people were saying they were from MAGA country and they didn't like him or his TV program. And to tell you the truth, I've never seen it and I can't even remember what TV program he was on. But the legacy media was willing to run, even though it was wholly unsupported, with his story. They were willing to try to ramp up hate in between the races, just like old Jussie did. He knew he was onto something good. Well, until the brothers talked. And what was the result? Well, as you all know, he's now been convicted of 5 of the 6 charges against him. I'd like to see this asshole go to jail for a very long time. Given a large sentence would send a message, but this is Chicago. And as you can see from the headline, Chicago didn't even want to prosecute him at all. It took a special prosecutor to do it. So I'm very sure he's going to be let go with a slap on the wrist, probably. Maybe not even any jail time at all. This race baiting son of a bitch should be heartily condemned by everybody for trying to stir up bad feelings between the races. But they won't be. In fact, the best thing about this whole story is something that's not even talked about anymore. In his trial, he says, "Oh, yeah, I was talking to Don Lemonhead. I was given a heads up by Mr. Lemonhead that the police weren't buying my fake story." Now, CNN has already lost one talking head because of his illegal and unprofessional conduct. I'd really like to see CNN lose a second talking head because of lying and unprofessional conduct. Hey Santa, if you're listening, that's a headline I'd like to read on Christmas Eve.